The moment riders had dreaded finally arrived, and it didn't come wrapped in marketing polish or corporate optimism. It came as a blunt message from the top. Harley's own CEO confirmed the truth. The upcoming lineup had been slammed to a halt. Production paused, future plans erased, and a wave of new government rules threatened the very machines riders had built their identities around. No spin, no sugarcoating, just cold reality delivered straight from Milwaukee. This wasn't about slow sales or dealer drama. This was about the road colliding with a system that never understood it. Tonight, we're breaking down what really happened, what's being frozen, and what it means for every rider who still believes steel can have a soul. For more than a century, Harley had been the living rhythm of the American road. The factories survived wars, recessions, shortages, and political storms, but nothing prepared them for the announcement that landed this fall. The CEO, the same man who promised evolution without betrayal, sent a short, sterile memo to dealerships across the country. Inside, it confirmed the unthinkable. Multiple upcoming releases delayed indefinitely. Others canceled entirely. Dealers described the follow-up call as 10 minutes of absolute silence. No pep talk, no reassurance, just a calm voice explaining that new government rules had forced a reevaluation of the entire future lineup. Those words, new compliance conditions, hit harder than any recall or downturn the brand had ever faced. For a company built on rebellion, being told what it could create felt like sacrilege. Prototypes froze. Audits flooded the offices. And disbelief shifted into dread. This wasn't rebranding. It wasn't restructuring. It was surrender. Milwaukee said nothing publicly, and that silence told the real story. The law that broke the backbone, the statute that sparked the crisis, wasn't announced with speeches or headlines. It was buried deep inside a massive reform package passed quietly in early 2025. On the surface, the bill talked about standardization, safety alignment, and future-friendly mobility. But hidden beneath those harmless phrases was a clause that changed everything. It demanded that every machine on the road meet new, extremely strict environmental criteria within a near-impossible deadline. And the catch? The rule didn't technically outlaw anything. It simply smothered the older machines in endless paperwork, fees, and mandatory testing. Machines that had survived generations were suddenly at risk of being labeled non-renewable unless owners produced documentation nobody knew how to get. Harley begged for time, asked for a brief delay to adapt. The request was ignored. Progress had been rewritten as regulation, freedom reduced to forms, and the consequences weren't theoretical. They rolled straight into driveways. The letters that started the panic. The first shock didn't come from police cars or politicians. It came in envelopes. By mid-2025, riders across several states began receiving notices stating their machines may require review before renewing registration. The word may did nothing to soften the blow. Riders posted pictures online. Outrage went viral overnight. Dealerships tried calming customers, said it was just routine updates. Then the insurance companies stepped in. Policies were suspended, renewals denied. Machines that had been cared for across decades suddenly sat in garages with no legal protection. No one showed up to confiscate anything. They didn't need to. Ride on the street without paperwork, and you risk losing everything. Independent shops tried helping, offering tests and certificates, but state auditors shut them down. Testing sites didn't exist yet. Owners were stuck in limbo. Machines ran perfectly, but were blocked by bureaucracy. You build it, protect it, love it, one veteran rider said, and suddenly it's not acceptable enough to exist. It wasn't about money, it was about dignity. Freedom had been turned into a liability. Behind closed doors one humid Wednesday morning, Harley's leadership packed into a conference room at the company's historic nerve center. Screens glowed red with deadlines, cost projections, and compliance charts. Every department was burning through time and cash. Engineers insisted the new mandates were impossible to meet without a complete rebuild. Finance warned that fines would destroy the company faster than failed redesigns. Legal pushed for silence, terrified of public backlash or political retaliation. Someone whispered, "We're trying to engineer freedom with a stopwatch over our heads." By midday, the decision was made. All upcoming releases were suspended. Dealers were told to halt promotions. Everything shifted toward survival mode. There was no press release. No proud announcement. Just a company born of rebellion, suddenly standing still. The news spread quietly, then explosively. Riders weren't angry at Harley. They were angry at a world rewriting the rules of the road. For the first time, defiance had no throttle. Dealer orders frozen. The warning didn't arrive through headlines. It arrived through a glitch. Dealers logged into the company's internal system to check spring allocations. Instead of models and paint options, a bright red banner filled the screen. Hold pending compliance review. Every single upcoming unit showed a gray, locked bar. At first, shops assumed it was a software error. Then screenshots spread across private dealer chats. This wasn't a bug. This was a full stop. Shop veterans felt a sickening sense of déjà vu. They remembered past quiet recalls, but this situation dwarfed anything before. This time it wasn't about parts or defects. This was about legality itself. Calls to corporate led nowhere. Dealers received the same scripted line. Models are under temporary review. No timeline, no explanation, just fog. Posters came down. Demo rides canceled. Phones went silent. Shipments froze. Parts ran dry. Mechanics stripped unsold machines for service jobs just to stay busy. The hum of pride in those workshops faded into the clatter of loose bolts and empty hours. Something bigger than any rumor settled over the industry. A tightening pressure everyone could feel in their bones. The deadline nobody saw coming. Buried deep inside that 1,000-page bill was the real bombshell, a countdown nobody talked about. New machines had to meet the new requirements almost immediately. Existing machines had a limited window before renewal, would be blocked if they didn't meet the same criteria. Harley had less than 2 years to redesign traditions that had taken generations to perfect. Lawyers searched for loopholes. Every path hit a wall. Fines loomed, enough to break the company if applied broadly. Engineering teams worked around the day clock, drowning in tests, forms, and conflicting requirements. What started as policy became a ticking clock aimed straight at the brand's history. Riders saw the fine print and panic spread. Faith cracked. The cost of staying legal. The first internal cost breakdown leaked and jaws dropped. Bringing the lineup into compliance would require a massive overhaul. Changes to design, testing, production, certification, and even the facilities themselves. The projected cost? Staggering. Dealers immediately understood what it meant. Prices would skyrocket or profits would evaporate. Either way, the culture would pay the price. Suppliers felt the shock next. Orders cut. Projects shelved. Craftsmen reassigned from building power to building paperwork. Heritage collided with arithmetic, and the math won. The wallet shockwave. By late 2025, the ripple hit the streets. Used machines lost value almost overnight. Buyers hesitated. Loans dried up. Interest rates climbed. Financing companies backed away. Some stopped offering long-term motorcycle loans altogether. Others raised requirements so high that younger riders were locked out of the lifestyle entirely. Trade-ins collapsed. Dealers offered scraps. Private. Sales stalled because nobody wanted to risk paperwork trouble. Machines that once symbolized pride now carried question marks. Riders weren't rebelling, they were surviving. Dealers, caught in the middle across the Midwest. Dealerships felt different that winter. The lights still glowed, the smell of oil still lingered, but the energy was gone. In Kansas City, a veteran dealer said he'd never seen anything like it. Corporate told him not to move the new units. The government told him not to sell the older ones. Customers called daily asking just one question. What happens to my bike next year? In Texas, a family-run shop faced the same nightmare. Their father had built the business with his bare hands. Now, his sons were explaining federal clauses to people who just wanted to ride. They treat us like we're dealing in something illegal, one of them said. Paperwork doubled. Audits tripled. Morale collapsed. Dealers who'd stood by the brand through thick and thin felt abandoned, punished for loyalty. The riders mobilize. The rebellion started the modern way. Online forums exploded with photos of letters, canceled insurance, and dealer screenshots. Then someone proposed a national ride, a rally for rider rights. It began with a small meetup outside a recently closed dealership. Dozens arrived. Then hundreds, then more. Local news cameras captured the sight, machines idling in unison under a gray winter sky. It was described as the quietest protest you could hear from miles away. Footage spread, rallies ignited across the country. Not just Harleys, every brand, every style, every rider united. Petitions swelled with signatures. The parking lots turned into temporary campgrounds. Stories shared. Chrome shining. Engines beating like hearts. Each rally ended with one collective roar across the horizon. A reminder that freedom still lived on two wheels. Milwaukee's Civil War inside headquarters. The real battle wasn't against the government. It was internal. Engineers, many lifelong riders themselves, fought to protect the spirit, the sound, the identity. They begged for time, exceptions, extensions. Finance pushed for new machines built specifically to pass the rules. Engineers called it betrayal. Executives called it survival. You can't calculate heritage, one side argued. You can't pay bills with nostalgia, came the reply. Rumors spread of secret prototypes, bridges between old and new. Nobody knew whether they'd ever be approved. Rebellion turned inward. The company that once defied the world was now fighting itself. The Freedom Rideon, a warm April morning. Something incredible happened. Thousands of riders from across the country rolled out, merging into a single unstoppable wave of chrome and thunder. They called it the Freedom Ride. It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about anger. It was a statement. Motorcycles aren't rebellion. They're identity. Highways, filled with caravans stretching for miles, overpasses packed with cheering. Families, truckers honked in solidarity. News. Helicopters filmed ribbons of riders slicing across. America, no banners, no speeches, just unity at the Capitol. Engines cooled beneath the fading light. It wasn't protest, it was remembrance and a warning. Freedom still has a sound. Competitors and copycats, when the smoke cleared, the industry did what it always does. Adapt. Some brands adjusted quietly, others treated the crisis as an opportunity. Many moved quickly while Harley remained trapped between history and mandate. Harley wasn't beaten by competition. It was trapped by its own legacy. A legacy too heavy to pivot and too sacred to abandon. The workers behind the steel, on the factory floors. The mood was heavier than any slowdown before. Layoffs began quietly, shifts shortened. Workers were reassigned, their craft replaced by paperwork. One veteran welder said it best, "Every machine we built carried our fingerprints. Now they want us to build forms instead." These factories weren't just workplaces, they were part of America's rhythm. Even as layoffs came, workers showed up, tools in hand, pride intact. But outside the walls, the market was collapsing faster than they could keep. Up, the market reckoning. Dealerships shut down. Suppliers folded. Whole towns lost their heartbeat as showrooms went dark. This wasn't mismanagement. It was gravity, a chain reaction set off by legislation and unstoppable once it began. Harley's heritage, once unbreakable, felt fragile. One gear stalled and the whole machine trembled. When the noise faded and the headlines cooled, something deeper remained. Riders sat beside their machines in quiet garages, reflecting on what those miles had meant. These weren't vehicles. They were companions, witnesses to decades of memories, road trips, reunions, losses, victories, dawn rides, and late-night escapes. The government can measure exhaust. It can cap emissions. It can drown owners in forms. But it cannot regulate pride. Freedom is not granted by policy. It's earned mile by mile, and every rider rebuilding in a small garage keeps the legend alive. The echo may fade, but the rhythm remains. Heartbeat of a nation that still believes freedom is worth the fight. Harley is fighting a storm it never saw coming, and every rider who loves that old-school heartbeat is caught in the middle. The question isn't whether the brand will change. The question is,